Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. This week, I want to talk about a leadership lesson from man's best friend. Now, let me introduce you to Armani and Oliver. Armani is a leopard catahoula mix, and Oliver is a German short-haired pointer mix. Now, both of these are my dogs, two of three that I have that I absolutely love. They were both rescued as puppies, and both of these dogs have found a place where they are absolutely loved, cared for, and I can tell you honestly, more than a little bit spoiled. Now, these dogs enjoy long hikes in the North Woods, and they're quite the entertainers when my grandkids come to visit. But one of their favorite things to do in the backyard is to play fetch and chase the ball. Now, while these dogs are very loving, very friendly, they are very protective of me and my family. And for that, I'm grateful. Now, not only are Armani and Oliver the best of buddies in the backyards, they get along well with Marley, my third dog. She's a Labradoodle and kind of the matriarch. She's the old lady of the family. She's about 6. Armani is a little over 2, and Armani is about 14 months. Now, best of all, to me, these are two of my best buddies as well. I'm one of these guys, as you know, that travels quite a bit, and I can promise you they know who their person is, and they let everybody in the family and everyone in the community know that as well. Now, if you're a fan of me personally and you follow me on my personal Facebook page, you'll also see that Armani and Oliver and occasionally Marley are going to hijack my personal Facebook page where they're going to share their insights on dog life. Some of the crazy things that we as humans do from a dog's perspective, and some of the great exploits that we share as we get out and live life together. Now, as I shared, one of the favorite things these dogs love to do is to play fetch in the backyard. And it's not just any ball because they've got several in the backyard. There's a couple of balls made by the Nerf company. They're these big yellow round chewies. They absolutely love it. Now, the dogs will run and they'll drop the ball at my feet or close to it. But interestingly enough, the dogs take turns chasing the ball and they'll compete at times to get the ball. Armani will bring it to my feet, drop it, and sit there and wait for me to throw the ball. Oliver, on the other hand, he drops the ball kind of close to where I'm at and kind of drifts back down the yard to kind of get a head start on Armani, who's a little younger and sometimes a little bit faster than he is. But interestingly, one of the things that I see them often do is they will both come together. And if Armani drops the ball at my feet and I pick it up and I don't immediately throw it, the dogs will run and they'll stand under the edge of the trampoline in between one of the sets of legs as if they're standing inside of a window, staring, waiting for me to throw the ball. And as soon as I chunk it, here's what I can tell you, the race is on. Whether it's a straight on throw, a sideways throw, a behind me throw, wherever I throw it, there is a competition for these dogs to see who can field the grounder, who can catch the fly ball, or who's the one that can catch the ball on the bounce, off the fence, off the wall, or off of a tree. Now, interestingly, there's a leadership lesson that I learned in watching these crazy dogs play ball because the style of chasing the ball is as different as the dogs themselves. Now, when it comes to fetch, Armani, the younger of the two, this dog is what I call all in when it comes to fetch. He's got only one speed, and that's 100%. He doesn't hold back. He goes full bore. His eyes are steeled on the ball, and he tenses as I wind up and get ready to throw. And as soon as that ball leaves my hand, he is in a dead sprint trying to get to where that ball is going. Now, interestingly about that, because he is 100% committed and all in, he often runs so fast and so hard, he overruns the ball. And at that point, when he does that, his claws dig into the ground, and there goes all the hard work on my grass as he goes into skid mode, trying to pivot and turn his body in an attempt to slow down, change course, and somehow avoid crashing into the fence or sliding into a tree or just simply missing the ball and watching Oliver scoop it up. Now, what's funny is oftentimes as I throw the ball, if it's rolling towards the fence, he will sprint right up to the fence, dig his front claws into the ground, and his hind legs will come up in the air, oftentimes going inverted vertical as he attempts to put on the brakes at the very last minute. It's quite entertaining to watch, and at some point, I want to try to catch it on video because it is a great leadership moment. And I'm going to show you why in just a moment. But needless to say, because of this little dog that I love a lot, my backyard bears the scars of his hard charging style of fetch. Now, if I pivot to Oliver, again, who is my German short haired pointer mix, he's a bit more reserved when it comes to chasing the ball. Now, he'll start hard like Armani does to get his momentum going, but he quickly shifts from full sprint mode into a more controlled sprint, knowing that if the ball hits a tree or it bounces off a root or in some way the ball changes direction, he wants to be able to pivot and immediately turn to where the ball is going. But I love what Armani does when he's chasing the ball, but Oliver's even more fun to watch because Oliver acts like a shortstop. And as he's running, he scoops the ball up in his mouth. And rather than hard braking, he simply coasts to a stop, turning to the left, to the right, or just making a wide circle before he brings the ball back, drops it somewhere in the area of my feet, and then goes back and resets to run again. Now, when Oliver's had enough, what does he do? He simply takes the ball, he goes over to a wading pool that I keep full of water, he steps in, he drops the ball, and then he lays down in the water and begins to get a drink. After a few minutes of cooling down, what does he do? He picks the ball up out of the water, he marches back and he drops it at my feet, he goes back up under the trampoline, resets for round two or round three or round four. Now, Armani, on the other hand, he's all in. Armani will simply go until he pushes himself almost to the point of exhaustion. And at that point, he'll run, he'll pick up the ball, he'll turn and he'll look at me. And then he simply lays down, puts the ball in between his legs, and he says, essentially, I'm done. Now, I'll say he's done until he catches his breath or maybe goes and gets a drink of water. And then guess what? Round two, round three, round four. Now, you may be asking at this point, John, what in the world does this story have to do with leadership? And more importantly, who's the better fetch player? Well, the short answer, it depends. Because if the dogs jockey for position, both Oliver and Armani are looking for a tactical advantage. Tenacity comes into play because just as one dog gets to the ball, doesn't necessarily mean the dog that gets there first is going to get it and is guaranteed that whoever scoops it up is going to come back with it. I've watched Armani literally leap over Oliver to catch a ball in the air, and I've seen Oliver scoop up a ball just as I knew Armani was right on top of it and was going to snatch it up. But regardless of whoever comes out on top, both of the dogs come trotting back together, smiles on their face. They drop the ball, they reset, and they're ready to go one more time over and over again. Now, what do we learn from that? What's the leadership lesson from man's best friend? Well, I'm glad you asked because whether you want to know or not, I'm going to tell you because the leadership lessons from man's best friend is the point of today's lesson. And I got this lesson from my guys. So here it is. Oliver and Armani represent two different approaches to leadership. Now, neither style is any better or any worse than any other style because each individual's leadership style is going to be unique based upon the individual that's leading themselves and leading others. Here's what I can say. Armani, Oliver, both have their own unique leadership styles when it comes to flying catch, but they both accomplish the task at hand. They both get plenty of opportunities to fetch the ball and bring it back. But each dog gets to choose the leadership style that works best for them. And that same truth applies to you. There's many different leadership styles out there that you could choose as your style of leadership, but you're going to choose the leadership style that works best for you. Now, if we look at Armani, Armani represents a more aggressive approach to leadership. He sees what he's got to accomplish, and that's get to the ball first, and he pursues it with a sense of intensity. Armani's aware he's not the only one pursuing the goal, and that drives him to perform at the highest level that he can so he can come out on top. He is a very competitive dog, and he understands if he doesn't get there first, he's likely to come back with no ball in his mouth. Now, this aggressive style of leadership, while it works often, it doesn't work every time, and it does have its own challenges. Understand, Armani is still young, so he's still learning to lead himself well and to make good choices. Here's the problem with an aggressive style of leadership. Armani gets so singularly focused on what he's pursuing, he's often oblivious to the obstacles and the challenges that are right there in front of him, often until it's almost too late to pivot. His hard charging style of leadership will allow him to come out on top a lot of the time, but it would be hard for others to follow in his footsteps and maintain his high intensity pace for as long as he does. Now, right now, he's winning more often than not because he's younger and he's a little more aggressive, but his approach to leadership is physically demanding. And over time, as he matures and eventually slows down a little bit, this aggressive leadership style is going to take its toll and he's going to have to change the way he leads. So, Armani, in my opinion, if I were looking at his leadership style and I was going to give him advice, I would say, Armani, you would be better served to temper your enthusiasm and dial your intensity back just a little bit and become more aware of your surroundings, to know where you're going and the obstacles that may lie ahead before you get right on top of them. It's important, Armani, for you to evaluate course changes that may be required in advance so you're not having to make such drastic, hard turns that oftentimes don't work for you. Armani, you need to remember that as the leader, you set the pace for the rest of the team. Now, over time, I know that's going to come with maturity, but this is what you need to do. Now, if you are an aggressive leader like Armani, you should pay attention to what I just told him because those same tips apply to you. Now, on the other hand, Oliver represents a more disciplined approach to leadership. As the more seasoned of the two, because he's a little older, Oliver's much more aware of his surroundings and what he can and often does to respond to what's in his way. Through experience, Oliver knows how to pivot, how to turn, and how to adapt to changing conditions in the backyard. He's still pretty fast. He's not really start to slow down yet, but he's learned to throttle back his speed so that he can be a little more nimble than his counterpart, who is all in aggressive in his approach. For Oliver, he wins more often than not because experience is his key to success. Now, Oliver's more disciplined approach is good, but it too has its challenges. So, if I were going to give some leadership feedback to Oliver and to those of you that have a more disciplined approach to leadership, here's what I would say to Oliver. Oliver, you tend to hold back a little bit too much at times when conditions are favorable, and you could have the opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive and push a little bit harder and go a little bit faster. And because of that, that more disciplined approach, sometimes you come up a little bit short and you end up taking second and not first. Understand this, Oliver. It's easy for an experienced leader to rely on settling for a routine, to know that you're going to get your fair share and you're okay with that. And when you begin to settle as a leader, you now begin to accept less as the status quo. And if you're more willing to accept a loss because you've gone comfortable doing things a certain way, other individuals more aggressive than you are going to get more wins than you over time. So, Oliver, you're going to be a little bit better served if you push yourself more when conditions are favorable. Use your size, use your experience to your advantage. Oliver, you know your territory well. You know what that backyard looks like, and you know where the obstacles and challenges exist. Use that to your advantage. You know where you can push harder. You know where you've got to slow down and pivot and turn a little. So make sure you're utilizing your knowledge, your skills, and your experience to your advantage. But Oliver, your greatest challenge is settling for less. And if you, like Oliver, are a seasoned, experienced leader, make sure you too aren't settling for for less. So let's make this personal as I get ready to wrap up this lesson today. Are you more of an Armani or are you more of an Oliver when it comes to your approach of leading yourself and leading other people? More importantly, are you regularly examining your approach to how you're leading yourself and leading other people so you are aware of your strengths and your weaknesses and where you're falling short? Are you aware of how your leadership style is impacting your opportunities and the tactics you're using to go and pursue success? Understand this: how you lead matters. How you lead yourself is ultimately how you're going to lead other people. Every leadership style, and you'll find a training on my website, Be a Black Belt Leader, of different leadership styles. It's free, it's available to you. I encourage you to check it out. But every leadership style has its distinct strengths and weaknesses. So don't forget this: everybody is leading someone somewhere right now, even if the only person you're leading is yourself. So when it comes to leadership, black belt leaders understand this: there's always room for improvement. What got you to where you are today is not going to get you where you want or need to be tomorrow. You've got to continue to grow because for the leader, there is no finish line. So whether you lead like Armani or you lead like Oliver or you lead like something entirely different, the most important thing to remember is this: you're leading. And the question is, are you leading well? And what do you need to do to improve? So here's my challenge to you as we wrap up this week's episode. Be the very best version of yourself you can be today. And tomorrow, strive to be an even better version of you than you were today. And if you do that day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're going to continue to grow, learn, improve, expand, and constantly becoming a better black belt leader. Now, this that I just shared today is a leadership lesson from man's best friend. I want to say thanks to Oliver and Armani and to Marley for the leadership lesson they shared as we were playing fetch in the back ball. So I want to say this: the backyard's a great place to learn a leadership lesson. So Oliver, Armani, thanks for the lesson. The lesson is learned. The lesson is applied. And we're going to strive to be better leaders as a result. I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.